Let the games begin.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast this week. It's it's kind of a last-minute podcast, to be honest. I apologize for that. I didn't think I'd have enough time to do a podcast this week. Turns out I did. So this is kind of a last-minute thing. Even though the news this week, there was quite a decent chunk of movie news items. The problem is that it's all like little bit chunks, so there's going to be a lot of quick fire news items here, because there was one big movie news item that just took over the whole week, and if you've been familiar with the movie news items this week, you know what that movie news item is, but if you don't, we will obviously talk about that. So thank you guys for joining on the podcast this week. Like I mentioned, it was a kind of a last minute podcast, so if this seems a little unstructured, apologize. Also, I didn't do a podcast last week like I said I was going to. Reason mostly being because like last week I thought I would have time, or like this week I thought I would have time, but I didn't. So that's what it was. So I apologize for that. So let's just get right to the movie news items this week, because I'm pretty sure that big movie news item is gonna just take up a good chunk of time. So I'm just gonna skip over the big news items that came out last week that I would love to talk about. But we're just gonna dive right into the movie news items of this week, and we're gonna start off with the movie trailers of the week in Trailer Talk.
Coming soon to theaters.
Alright, so quite a few trailers dropped this week. We're going to highlight just a few of them. We're not going to talk about all of them. And we're not going to talk about the monstrosity that was the Aladdin trailer, or at least the genie design. We're not going to talk about that. But we're going to talk about the trailers that we are going to talk about. The first one we're going to talk about is The Hustle.
Is the seat taken? I'll just get a glass of water, please. I have to save all my money because I'm here to find my sister. She's been taken.
Taken? Like
By men who sell hot white virgins to cajillionaires on yachts.
I am very moved by your story. Order anything you like.
I'll have a club sandwich and an order of fries, 2 slices of cake. Do you want any cake?
No.
3 slices of cake and a Diet Coke.
Impressive.
I'm a con artist.
Sisters in arms.
I had no idea how small time I was until I met you.
Penny. Why are women better suited to the con than men?
Because we're used to faking it.
Because no man will ever believe a woman is smarter than he is.
Is it valuable?
$500,000.
I like it because it's shiny.
I could be the partner you never knew you needed. Teach me your sugar baby ways. Take this to the guest room, butlery person.
First lesson, there's nothing more compelling to a man than a vulnerable woman. Observe.
Wow, you can just tear up like that. Can you make the tear roll down your cheek? Oh.
Now you try.
Gee.
Are you constipated?
Well, she's all you'd ever want. She's the kind I'd like to flaunt and take to dinner.
If you want to be like me, you must be trained for any situation.
She always knows her place. She's got style, she's got grace. She's a win.
She's ready.
He's the Marc.
He's a tech millionaire.
Billionaire, I bet.
Try to be as inconspicuous as possible.
Come through. Yep, blind person walking here. If this person would just scoot over. Would you mind, sir? Sir?
Men always underestimate us, and that is what we use.
You let her get away.
Trashy dressing, did it again. Release the peasants!
She must mean pheasants, yeah?
Don't worry, darling, she's a terrible short.
That was unexpected.
A gender-swapped remake of the 1988 film Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which itself was actually a remake of a 1964 film called Bedtime Story. This one stars Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson as a pair of con artists who team up to take on the men who have wronged them. Hathaway plays a refined pro, while Wilson is a street con artist who Hathaway's character takes under her wing. I remember watching Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I don't remember too much about it, but I remember liking it when I watched it. So hopefully this whole gender swap thing, which is now the new fade in Hollywood, just remake old movies and just switch the genders out, which is fine. I mean, because you can tell other perspectives of the movie. This one, The Hustle, it looks okay. I'm not the biggest Rebel Wilson fan out there, but I think when she's actually given the right material, I think she can actually be really solid. And Anne Hathaway, I mean, obviously she's proven herself on more than one occasion. So I don't know. I think maybe this could be good. And we'll talk about Rebel Wilson later on in the podcast this week. But The Hustle comes out on May 10th. The next trailer we're going to talk about is a trailer for a movie that I knew was coming out, but for whatever reason, when I saw the trailer, I knew it was the movie, but I saw the trailer and I thought, I don't think this was the movie that was being reported. So it was a nice surprise. The trailer we're going to talk about is called Yesterday.
This was my last gig. If it has happened by now, it's like a miracle.
Miracles happen.
What happened?
Electricity flicked off all over the world.
Yesterday, Ellie bought you a present. All my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
When did you write that?
I didn't write it. Paul McCartney wrote it. The Beatles.
Who?
John, Paul, George and Ringo, the Beatles. No. Stop it. Yesterday. It's one of the greatest songs ever written.
Well, it's not Coldplay. It's not Fix You.
Do you genuinely not know who the Beatles are?
Generally.
Then I'm in a really, really, really complicated situation. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me.
Sorry, I'm just listening to Jack's new song.
What's this one called?
Leave it be.
Let it be.
Well, rock on, Jack.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you something. I wanna hold your hand.
Hi, we should talk. See, we pay and you write songs, and then you make a ton of money. And then we take most of it.
The one, the only, Jack Mallet! We would like you to write something right now.
Something in the way she moves.
No one's ever written this many great songs. How do you do it?
Attracts me like no other lover.
Sometimes it feels like someone else has written all the songs.
Hey Jude.
I've been waiting half my life for you to wake up and love me. But I'm a school teacher and you are the world's greatest singer-songwriter.
I'm not.
Except for you are.
It's gonna be the greatest album of all time.
I've got two men who claim that the songs are theirs. Let's see how this plays out, shall we?
There's something you should know.
Please make some noise for Mr. Jack Mallet!
Let me just give you this advice. Song title. Hey, Dude.
Hey Dude, are you sure?
Hey, dude.
It's so much better.
Do-do-do-do-do-do.
Directed by Danny Boyle and written by Richard Curtis, who was the writer of Love Actually, the film follows Jack, played by newcomer Himesh Patel, I think that's how you pronounce his name, I should say, who becomes the only person on Earth who remembers the Beatles. He capitalizes on it. Of course, eventually he gets into some trouble with the people who claim to be the owners of the song. The film also stars Lily James, Kate McKinnon, and Ed Sheeran himself. Yesterday opens on June 28th. This actually looks pretty good. And like I mentioned, I want to say we talked about this on the podcast before I took that big break. This is nothing like I imagined the movie would be when it was being reported on. When it was being reported on, it sounded like it was going to be... I mean, this is kind of an original idea. I think this is kind of cool. The concept's great. Execution-wise, it looks like it's going to work. So it's going to be really cool. But when it was reported, it was just like, oh no, it's just going to be a story set in... I think they said it was like set in the 80s or something, or before. It was going to be not set in modern day, but set in the past. And it wasn't going to be like this. Not reported like it was being reported. So I don't know. It's nice to be surprised, having these expectations, and all of a sudden they just kind of change out of nowhere. So I was very surprised by this trailer. I really love this trailer. I thought it was great. So the film is called Yesterday. The next trailer we're going to talk about is Long Shot. It is directed by Jonathan Levine, who directed The Night Before. That was the last movie he directed. And it follows an unlikely romance between a hard-hitting political writer, played by Seth Rogen, who reunites with his first crush, who also happens to be the current United States Secretary of State, played by Charlize Theron.
Charlotte, I would like to endorse you to be the next president of the United States.
Oh my God.
You've been a great secretary.
Of state.
Which state again?
All of them?
Is the Secretary of State looking at us?
I kind of know her.
It's like kind of knowing a mermaid. Do you tell people that?
She probably doesn't remember who I am.
Secretary Field would like to speak with you.
With me?
I can't shake this feeling that we know each other.
We do.
We do?
Picture me, I guess, maybe like 20 years younger, but like this.
Flarsky?
Yeah!
What are you doing these days?
I'm a journalist.
You're a great writer, but sometimes you're a little too much.
I don't think I am too much. I actually think I'm the perfect right portion.
It's really nice to see you again.
Whoa! Hey! Cracker down! I'm okay. Do boys and men just call me a cracker?
What is the relationship exactly?
I used to babysit for him.
You babysat for him? Wow, time has not been kind.
I need some writers to punch up my speeches.
Fred's writing is really good, and he knows me.
Oh, I feel so scared.
In order to write better for you, I should kind of get to know you better if you have a minute.
I actually have 7.
7 minutes in heaven. What is your favorite book as a kid?
The Velveteen Rabbit.
Favorite song?
Must Have Been Love by Roxette.
Most embarrassing moment?
I don't embarrass that easily.
I don't either, really.
What's your favorite sexual position?
Normal? Front-facing normal? What kind of question is that?
All it took. Look at you.
What's your favorite sexual position?
Don't be gross, Fred.
Do you like date?
I mean, who wants to follow me around the world and hope I have 5 minutes to be affectionate?
Yeah.
We did almost just die.
We actually did almost die.
We need to move you.
Thank you, Agent M.
It's Pretty Woman, but she's Richard Gere and you're Julia Roberts.
Honestly, this has been the best few weeks of my entire life.
We asked 1,000 constituents how they would feel if Kate Middleton
I see where you're going with this.
were to start dating Danny DeVito. Pretty negative reaction.
The last time you got high was at a Swing Doctors concert.
We had a situation.
I'm in so much trouble.
What's happened? Are they out of water?
Wow, he's so bendy, huh?
Oh, ouch.
I think the trailer looked really funny. I knew about the project. I knew it premiered at a film festival recently, and it got some really great, I think it was Sundance, and it got really great reviews. Everyone said that it was really good, and they liked it, and it was funny. And the trailer shows that. The trailer looks really funny. It looks like it has a lot of heart. Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron. There's a really funny line. It's by O'Shea Jackson Jr., who's also in the movie. Looks to play the best friend of Seth Rogen. He said that this is Pretty Woman, except you're not playing playing Richard Gere. You're playing Julia Roberts. So I thought that was kind of actually funny. But the whole trailer is really good, and it looks at least from the trailer, it looks like Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron have really good chemistry. Of course, Theron has, had her fair share of some comedic roles, and Seth Rogen's a pro at it already. So this looks really funny. It looks kind of charming. Definitely different than what I thought it was originally going to be, but I'm really kind of looking forward to this now. So Long Shot opens on May 3rd. We'll definitely talk about that more when we get closer to the release date. We got 2 more trailers we're going to talk about, and the next trailer is for Blumhouse's Ma.
Are you going to meet a boy? No sex or booze. Okay.
Woo! Maggie came to party. Let's get filthy. What you sipping on? I got you talking crazy.
Excuse me, can you buy some booze for my friends and I?
Not interested. Please? Hell.
Woo! There's my girl.
This never happened, okay?
Thanks again for doing this, ma'am.
You guys want to party like rock stars? Follow me.
Let's get drunk!
The bar is open.
What do you think? We don't know this chick.
It ain't much, but it's all you.
Cool basement.
You're free to do whatever you want down here, but nobody go upstairs.
This is so sick.
Welcome to Ma's.
What? Love Ma?
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
How did she get our numbers?
You know where the party is. Those earrings are beautiful, Maggie. You got a sweet mama, huh?
Who are you with? Just some kids from school.
You have a boyfriend. Men are dogs.
There's something off about Ma.
Seriously? She's harmless. And her basement's pretty much the best drinking spot in town.
We can't go up there. Shh.
What the hell?
Thanks for these earrings.
What happened last night?
You don't remember, do you?
Are you guys mad at me for something?
I don't want to hang out at Ma's anymore.
Don't make me drink alone. Don't make me drink alone.
Max, I want you to meet someone.
Nice to meet you, Maggie.
We went to high school together.
Why's my son
You smell just like your daddy.
spending time at your house?
Hey, guys.
That bitch is crazy.
Probably something wrong with me. How does it feel to be on the outside looking in? Let's get this party turned up.
Why are you doing this?
This is the most fun I've had in a long time.
Directed by Tate Taylor, who of course directed The Help and The Girl on the Train, and stars Octavia Spencer as a lonely woman who keeps to herself in her quiet Ohio town when she's asked by a teenage girl to buy some booze for her and her friends. She then offers them a chance to hang out in their basement, but she has one rule: don't go upstairs. And eventually the teens realize they are in way over their heads. The teenage cast is pretty much unknown, with Juliette Lewis and Luke Evans having supporting roles in the movie as 2 parents of 2 different teenagers. Ma opens on May 31st. I remember reading when this was going to happen and liking the idea of Octavia Spencer maybe playing this kind of weird, I don't want to say Split. I mean, it's the same, how obviously Blumhouse responsible for Split, and they're kind of giving off that vibe a little bit. I mean, watch the trailer. I just hit my microphone, I'm sorry, I don't know if you heard that. You kind of get that vibe a little bit from this trailer. Octavia Spencer starts off as a woman's like, no, I'm not gonna buy you beer, and all of a sudden it's like it's almost immediate. Like, she goes and her whole perspective, her whole body language is different. She walks into the store to buy the booze, and she comes back. It's almost like she's a completely different person. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how it plays out entirely. The trailer's a little weird. I mean, not weird in like, Jordan Peele's Us kind of weird, but weird in it looks like they may be showing too much, but there's enough ambiguity there where you don't know kind of how everything is going to match up. So I don't know, I think this is going to be kind of interesting. And seeing Octavia Spencer kind of almost essentially playing at least the antagonist in a movie like this is really cool. So flipping pretty much every kind of role she's ever had. She's always been, the person on the good side, or someone that's actually really wants to help people. But no, this time she's playing someone who's going to torture a bunch of teenagers. So I'm all for that, really. So this, I don't know, we'll see how that works out. Okay, so the last trailer we're going to talk about in depth is The Curse of La Llorona.
Trisha, I'm very sorry about your loss.
It's your fault!
I can't even imagine how you must feel.
Your children
Rinsing.
are safe now. But have they heard her crying? Have they felt the sting of her tears? They will. And she will come for them. Who? La Llorona.
Father, can you help us?
The church works with people who specialize in situations like this.
It's La Llorona.
Is she coming?
She's already here.
What do we do?
We are facing an evil. It has no bounds.
Rinsing.
The Curse of La Llorona.
Set in the 70s, the movie follows a social worker, played by Linda Cardellini, I always mispronounce her last name, who finds herself trapped in La Llorona's nightmare when children start going missing. The movie is produced by James Wan, which immediately there you will know, I don't know if you can hear that, that's my cat playing with his toy. Immediately you kind of get that feel of it's a James Wan movie just by watching the trailer. It's directed by newcomer Michael Chavez, who will actually direct the next Conjuring movie. So that's kind of cool. We got a little preview of how he's going to work within the James Wan kind of aesthetic and world. The Curse of La Llorona, it looks good. Look, I'm Mexican, and you ask any Hispanic or Latino person and you ask them if they know the story of La Llorona, and they will immediately tell you yes. Because this is it's not just it's not just just for Latinos and Hispanics. I mean, everyone has kind of their own version of, like, it's the Weeping Woman story, or the woman in the white dress kind of story. It's kind of similar to that, except with the Llorona or La Llorona, she takes her children and she kills them. So it was a story to, get kids to stop misbehaving, but the story, depending on which kind of version you're following, has some truth to it. Some people say that she was just a Mexican woman who married a soldier or a royal, and she, just in case you don't know the story, she accidentally drowned her kids, and she is, cursed to walk the earth saying mis hijos, which is my children. And then whenever she finds children misbehaving or out by themselves, she just takes him away. So it's a story. Again, if you're Hispanic or you're Latino, you know about La Llorona. So they already know they got their built-in audience for the movie. I also like that they're not playing Linda Cardellini's character as Hispanic. She's just playing a social worker. She just happens to be looking after some Hispanic kids. It looks like the trailer opens up. You see, if you've seen it or if you're gonna watch it, it starts off with her in a room with a Hispanic mother. And the actress is actually someone that I think most people will know. But for whatever reason, I can't remember the name, and I didn't write it down. But you will recognize her when you see her. So it looks like maybe it's their children she's looking after or something like that. They don't really make it clear in the movie or in the trailer itself, but it looks like maybe they will. She's just looking after these kids. They're not her kids. She's looking after them. So it should be interesting. It looks creepy. I'm gonna go watch it because that's what I do. Alright, so those are the trailers that I'm going to highlight this week that I wanted to really talk about. I know you're probably upset with me that I'm not going to talk about the Aladdin trailer. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not, because of that. You know what it is. Everyone's joked about it online already. I'm not going to add any more to it. I'm not going to talk about the Frozen 2 teaser because it's all visuals, and I kind of really like that. It's all visuals, and it's all great visuals at that. I mean, that water. I mean, I don't know how Disney does it. Disney Animation is always finding these new visual styles, and what they did with the water and the ice in this teaser is nothing short of fantastic. I love what they did there. So, and it's really different. I think a lot of people were expecting something. I know I was not expecting this kind of teaser from Frozen 2, so I don't know. I'm not more excited for the movie. I'm still as excited as I was, but it should be interesting to kind of see how all that turns out. So there's that. There was a new trailer for 5 Feet Apart, which is based off a novel of the same name, and it's about two teenagers with cystic fibrosis who fall in love in their hospital wing. So it's that kind of story. It's a tearjerker, obviously. We just kind of know right there from the bat. A trailer for Teen Spirit starring Elle Fanning and Rebecca Hall. It's a modern retelling of the Cinderella story with, as they put it, a quote-unquote pop-fueled soundtrack. Whatever that means. I mean, you can kind of guess that from the trailer, but whatever that means as a whole for the movie itself. And then finally, there was a teaser for Tolkien, which stars Nicholas Hoult as J.R.R. Tolkien, and it will be a retelling of his life and his time at school, his time as an author and artist before going to World War I. And, obviously, if you know anything about J.R.R. Tolkien, you know that his experience in World War I led him to write The Lord of the Rings, and you kind of get a lot of those Lord of the Rings kind of, I don't want to say visuals, but the teaser does a really great thing about, because it's narrated by Nicholas Hoult playing playing Tolkien, and, he says fellowship, and he says, like, these pop-up words where you're like, no, that's from Lord of the Rings, because everyone knows that's from Lord of the Rings. And you see these great images. There's kind of an image of, when he says fellowship, there's like, it's basically kind of almost a shot from Lord of the Rings when all the hobbits are together. And there is a shot that looks eerily similar to the shot of the hobbits hiding from the ring wraiths, and that, so it's a really nice teaser. It's really short, so if you want to check it out, I highly recommend you do. All these movies, by the way, come out later this year, obviously. I marked down the release dates for all of them. I think Tolkien and Teen Spirit come out within the next couple months, so we'll obviously talk more about that when we get a chance. 5 Feet Apart comes out on March 15th, and Frozen 2 comes out later this year on November 22nd. So you got all those trailers. And all those trailers, of course, will be linked down below in the description/show notes area, so you guys can go watch the trailers yourselves. Alright, that has been Trailer Talk. Let's move on to the movie news items of the week. All right, so let's do some quick fire news items. Starting off with Thomas Middleditch has joined the cast of Zombieland 2. He now joins the cast members of course, the returning cast members of Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Abigail Breslin, and Emma Stone, along with new cast members Zoe Deutsch and Rosario Dawson. Also returning are director Ruben Fleischer and writers Paul Rennick and Ritz Reese. The sequel will see our old survivors facing off new zombies that have evolved since the first movie and will encounter new human survivors. So, obviously those that people I just mentioned. Production has already begun, and the movie will open later this year in October, which will also be the 10th anniversary of the movie's first release. So, that's pretty cool. Warner Brothers is developing an Aquaman 2 with the same writer, and no surprise, considering how successful Aquaman was. Warner Brothers is developing Aquaman 2 and hired David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick to write the script. He was one of the co-writers of the first movie with Will Bial, but it looks like he's tackling the script by himself, at least the first draft of the script by himself. Of course, Aquaman, like I mentioned, overperformed at the box office, so sequel is really no surprise. No other news items have been announced for the movie. We can assume that the cast of the first movie will return. We don't know if James Wan will also return, but he could be the outlier of everything, considering he's a very busy man, so it's all going to come down to scheduling. This, of course, goes along with the news item that came out last week saying that Warner Bros. Was developing a movie of The Trench. Yes, the Trench that had like 5 minutes in the movie with the horror creatures. They're developing a spin-off of that as well. That we would have talked about that last week if we got to it, but we didn't. All right, so moving on. We talked about Octavia Spencer with Blumhouse's Ma. She was in the news again this week as well. She's in talks to join Robert Zemeckis' adaptation of The Witches. Anne Hathaway, who we also talked about, is already set to star, and Blackish series creator Kenyon Barris is on board to co-write the script with Zemeckis. And based on the 1973 novel, the film follows a 7-year-old boy who will be played by a newcomer called Jazir Bono. I think that's how you pronounce his first name. Yazir, maybe, I don't know. Who has a run-in with real-life witches. The book has already been made into a movie in the 90s with Angelica Houston, which maybe some of you are familiar with. She would play the main witch in the movie, which Hathaway, I think, will play the new head witch in this movie. At least I think that's kind of where they're leaning toward, unless Robert Zemeckis pulls something off and like, no, we're not doing that. But sources close to the production say this version will be more rooted to the book than the 90s movie. So if you weren't a fan of the 90s movie, you can check this out. Spencer herself will play the grandmother of Bruno's character, and another top name, or names I should say, that are already attached to the project include Guillermo del Toro and Alfonso Cuarón, who are producing the movie. And Del Toro actually wrote the first draft of the script, so that's kind of cool. Just saying. All right, so those are your quick fire news items. Let's move on to the bigger movie news items of the week. Josh Brolin has joined the Dune movie. I think I talked about Dune very briefly on the podcast, but the movie will be directed and co-written by Denis Villeneuve, who directed Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and it's based off the acclaimed sci-fi novel by Frank Herbert, which is set in the distant future and follows Paul, whose family assumes control of a desert planet, Arcarius. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. But after his family is betrayed, he leads a rebellion to restore his family's reign. The movie already has a very impressive cast. Oscar Isaac and Rebecca Ferguson are playing Paul's parents, which Paul, by the way, in the movie will be played by Timothée Chalamet. Stellan Skarsgård and Dave Bautista are playing the villains. Charlotte Rampling is playing a character named Reverend Mother Mohima, who can divine intentions and suss out lies and manipulate people's emotions or emotional states on behalf of the Emperor. So she's kind of be playing this kind of weird, kind of potentially antagonistic character. Zendaya is also in talks to play Chani, a love interest of Chalamet's Paul, and Javier Bardem is also in talks to join to play a character named Stiglar, a leader of a nomadic tribe called Freeman. So now we have Brolin, who is joining the cast as a wardmaster and of Chalamet's family and a mentor named Gunry Hellick. So this cast is just crazy packed. You got Oscar Isaac, you got Josh Brolin, you got Stellan Skarsgård, you got Dave Bautista, you got Rebecca Ferguson, you got Charlotte Rampling, you have Timothée Chalamet, which I guess, yeah. You have Zendaya, you have Javier Bardem. It's crazy. It is crazy packed to the gills, and the fact that Denis Villeneuve is not only directing this movie that will, by the way, be closer to the book than the 1984 movie, because if you're thinking like, where have I heard the name before? Because Dune was a movie in 1984 directed by David Lynch. Then we have talked about this because I remember looking up a documentary that I told you guys you should go check out, and you should still go check it out. I'll put the link to that again in the description / show notes area, because I can never pronounce the first guy's name and I don't want to do that injustice. So yeah, there was. I just hit my microphone again. I'm sorry. But the movie will be closer, like I mentioned, closer to the source material than the 1984 movie. Production is starting very soon, so I'm guessing that's why they're still getting a bunch of people. But the fact that Denis Villeneuve is getting this many people to be a part of Dune is mind-boggling, and it's just a little concerning because you always have these big cast names. And they always have these big casts in these big sci-fi ambitious movies, and a lot of times it doesn't always work. But I think Villeneuve is capable enough where he can actually make this work, and I really hope he does. And it's not like he's not used to working with a lot of big names. Obviously, he did Sicario, so he's already worked with Brolin before, and Sicario was jam packed. I mean, you had Brolin, you had Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, John Bernthal was in there, David Kaluuya was in there. I think a lot of people forget that Daniel Kaluuya, I should say, was in Sicario. You had Arrival with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. Then you had Blade Runner 2049 with Ryan Gosling and Jared Leto and Ana de Armas and Harrison Ford. I don't know why I forgot his name. Out of all the people of that cast, how did I forget Harrison Ford? But yeah, I mean this is absolutely crazy. There's no release date yet for Dune, but yeah, that's pretty rad. Hold the phone. Update to the story. Not only is Josh Brolin joining the movie, it looks like Jason Momoa is now in negotiations to join the cast. Momoa would play a character named Duncan Idaho. Quite a name, right? Yeah. Who is a swordmaster, who is the right-hand man of Oscar Isaac's character, who, of course, again, is the father in the movie to Timothée Chalamet's character, Paul. Okay, that was the update. Back to our regularly scheduled podcast. Alright, let's move on to the second movie news item of the week. The Red Sonja movie has been put on hold, and Bryan Singer may be out as a director. Millennium Films, they were the studio behind the Red Sonja movie, has officially put the movie on hold, and it's not too out of the realm of possibility that Bryan Singer is no longer attached to direct. The studio announced this during the American film market, where a lot of studios go to get their films bought out by other major studios. And while they didn't outright say that Singer was no longer directing, Deadline, which broke the story, makes it seem like the studio pretty much hinted that Singer is no longer attached to direct. Of course, Singer has had a very storied history in Hollywood lately, to say the very least. And once the stories broke out, many were actually trying to get Singer to drop out or get him fired from directing the Red Sonja movie, considering that Red Sonja, in case you don't know, is a kind of a spin-off character of Conan the Barbarian. Her backstory and her history involves sexual assault, so there's something there. Can't quite put my finger on it, but there is that. So Red Sonja, the movie itself has actually been in the works for many, many years, and this doesn't help the cause that the movie will probably get made. I remember Rose McGowan was pushing really hard to be Red Sonja for a while. Robert Rodriguez was one of the many directors attached to the movie, but I think that was kind of like the last real big real big outing for the movie, saying they were going to do it. So I don't know. We'll see how Red Sonja favors in the future. But yeah, not surprising that they're going to finally cut Bryan Singer from the director's chair. And our big story of the week is Marc Webb is set to direct the remake of Your Name. So the reimagining / remake of the hit 2016 animated film Your Name has a director. Paramount and Bad Robot have hired Marc Webb, who of course is the director of the Amazing Spider-Man movies that came out, and of course the director of 500 Days of Summer. He will be directing the movie, and Eric Hessier, who wrote the script for Arrival, is set to write the movie. Now, opposed to the two movies will share pretty much a very similar story. The American remake will follow a young Native American woman living in a rural area, and a young man from Chicago who discover they are magically and intermittently swapping bodies. When a disaster threatens to upend their lives, they must journey to meet and save their worlds. The original film, like I mentioned, came out in 2016. It was an anime from Japan. Again, had a very similar structure. Kind of pretty much tells the same story. It's two teenagers who discover they can swap bodies, and they have to work together despite being separated by time and space to prevent an impending disaster. And of course, being an anime, not of course, but at least this particular movie, had touches and was centered, and the story was centered culturally around, again, the culture of Japan. So that was it. And again, like I mentioned, it was a big hit, not just in Japan, but here in the States when it came out in 2016. It broke all kinds of records. I think it broke the opening anime weekend and the open anime day for a movie here in the States. And it was the following year in 2017 when the movie was announced that it was going to get remade. Now, that said, Eric Hessier spoke about the project, and he said some things that will probably surprise some fans of the original Japanese anime and just fans of the movie here in the States in general, because you hear remake and you just, everything is like, of course they're remaking it. No, slow down, because Eric Hessier said that the Japanese rights holders wanted specifically an American live-action version of the movie, and said, quote, they stated that if they wanted a Japanese live-action version, they would have just done it themselves, but they wanted it to see it through the lens of a Western viewpoint. I mean, that's true. I mean, if Japan was like, we're gonna, and Japan has done live-action adaptations of their own anime projects, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that it was like, no, we're just gonna do this ourselves. They wanted a American remake. So you want to blame anyone, don't blame Hollywood, blame the Japanese American rights holders. Anyway, in a bonus, the original film producer, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because I will mess it up very badly, will produce the remake as well, along with J.J. Abrams, who of course is the owner and founder of Bad Robot, who is producing the movie. And the original producer of the movie also had this to say about the hiring of Marc Webb, not Mike Webb, of Marc Webb, saying, quote, Marc was our first choice to direct this refashioned interpretation of the film from the moment we explored creating an American version. As we saw in 500 Days of Summer, Marc has a tremendous talent for telling great love stories in the same way moviegoers were captivated by the original film. We are certain Marc will engage fans of the original and an entirely new audience for those character's beautiful journey. With J.J. Abrams producing, Eric Hessier writing, and Marc directing, this project officially has the team we dreamed about. End quote. So this is pretty cool. They kind of like Eric Hessier said, it wasn't necessarily Hollywood being like, oh, this is something good that we don't own, we're gonna come remake it. No, it was them. It was Japan. It was the rights holders of the anime who came to Paramount and came to Bad Robot and came to J.J. Abrams and said, hey, we want to do an American remake, American live action of our story, and we want you guys to be a part of it. And I think that's kind of cool. That doesn't necessarily happen a lot. I mean, we always get, the news of stuff being remade here in America, it's not like America is the only country in the world doing remakes of stuff. Other countries do remakes of American movies. There was an American remake, but there was a remake. I don't know where it was, but there was a remake of an American movie, which was Unforgiven. Yes, the Western movie with Clint Eastwood and Robert Duvall and a bunch of other people. For the life of me, I can't remember, but there was a foreign language remake of that. There's been, foreign language remakes all the time. It's just in America, it's just that, we're so focused on it because we live here and we see all the movie news items drop all the time. So there's that. I have not actually seen Your Name. I tried to watch it when it came out in theaters here in the States, and every time I tried to watch it, it was packed, it was sold out, or it was in an inconvenient time. So everything, the universe was against me watching Your Name, despite me really wanting to watch it. So now I will definitely watch it before the remake comes out, because I heard nothing but great things about it. And I'm not necessarily like a full-blown anime guy. Like, I don't watch a lot, if any, anime, but I do try to stay in touch with what's popular at the moment, even though I don't get a chance to watch it, or even though I don't have, not that I don't have time to watch, I just don't usually watch it because it's not my thing. But I did want to watch Your Name because I heard such amazing things about it. So if you happen to have watched Your Name, let me know what you guys think about this. And again, this was something that the Japanese rights holders of the movie wanted to do. So if you want to blame anyone, blame them. So there's currently no release date or production date for the movie just yet, but it is in the works. And they already have a director, so I'm assuming they'll probably and a writer, and he's probably already started working on the project. Although Eric Hessier is a very busy man since Arrival, so I'll obviously keep an eye on the project and update you guys whenever there is an actual update on the movie. Okay, here's the big movie news item of the week, and the one that pissed everyone off: the Oscars. It pissed everyone off. Variety broke the story this week that the Oscars will be presenting 4 Oscars Academy Awards during the commercial break. Those 4 Oscars were Makeup and Hairstyling, Live Action Short Film, Best Editing, and Best Cinematography. The winning speeches would be edited. This is, by the way, there was an update to the story. I'm just going to read the original story and then do the update. The winning speeches will be edited to remove the winners' walk from their seats to the stage, and each speech will be aired separately later in the podcast. The Academy President, John Bailey, informed the membership of the plans in a letter emailed to all of them, and also said that the 4 delayed presentations will be streamed live online on Oscar.com. The organization's Board of Governors has committed to having a 3-hour show this year, and during the nominee luncheon last week, which they always do for the Oscars, they always have all of them come in and do a luncheon, Bailey and the show's producers apparently said, quote, "When you head to the stage, move quickly. Show us how eager you are to get up there." End quote. Additionally, the winners will have 90 seconds from the moment their name is called to reach the stage and complete their speech. That's not going to happen, by the way, but okay. So here's Bailey's. I want to read his whole letter because I want you to hear what he said. So he said, this is the letter. Dear fellow Academy members, after months of anticipation and much talk, I'd like to address a topic that's close to me. Viewing patterns for the Academy Awards are changing quickly in our current multimedia world, and our show must also evolve to successfully continue promoting motion pictures to a worldwide audience. This has been our core mission since we established 91 years ago, and it is the same today. As you may remember, last summer the Academy's Board of Governors committed to airing a 3-hour show. I want to reiterate, however, that all 24 Academy Award-winning presentations will be included in the broadcast. We believe we have come up with a great way to do this and keep the show to 3 hours, while still honoring the achievements of all 24 awards on the Oscars. 4 categories: cinematography, film editing, live action short, and makeup and hairstyling will be presented during the commercial breaks, with the winning speeches aired later in the broadcast. And with the help of our partners at ABC, we will also stream these 4 award presentations online for our global fans to enjoy live along with the audience, or with our audience. Fans will be able to watch on Oscar.com on the Academy's social channels. The live stream is a first for our show and will help further awareness and promotion of these award categories. The executive committees of 6 branches generously opted in to have their awards presented in a slightly edited time frame for this year's show, and we selected 4. In future years, 4 to 6 categories may be selected for rotation in collaboration with the show's producers. This year's categories will be exempt in 2020. The Academy Awards honors this year's best films and filmmakers. It is an international show filled with great emotion and we hope stirring, accepting speeches. So buckle up. We are committed to presenting a show which we are all proud of. John. So that was the letter that first came out. Then, later in the week, the officers of the Board of Governors sent out another letter in an attempt to lessen concerns, I guess, saying this. And it's basically kind of a rewriting, a rework of the original letter, saying, as the Academy's officers, we'd like to assure you that no award category at the 91st Oscar ceremony will be presented in a manner that depicts the achievements of its nominees or winners as any less than any other. Unfortunately, as the result of an inaccurate reporting in social media posts, there has been a chain of misinformation that has understandably upset many Academy members. We'd like to reinstate and explain the plans of presenting the awards as endorsed by the Academy's Board of Governors. So they pretty much reliterated their points. The 4 categories: live action, short, hair, makeup styling, film editing, and cinematography were quote-unquote volunteered by their branches to have their nominees and winners announced by presenters and included later in the broadcast. In future years, 4 to 6 categories may be selected or rotated in collaboration with the show's producers. This year's categories, I should say, will be exempt from next year's 2020 Oscars. Also, this change in the show was discussed and agreed to by the Board of Governors in August with the full support of the branch executive committees. Such decisions are fully deliberated. The letter then said this about the show's producers, that they have, quote, given great consideration to both Oscar tradition and our broad global audience. We sincerely believe you will be pleased. You will be pleased. Why am I stuttering? You will be pleased with the show and look forward to celebrating a great year in movies with all Academy members and with the rest of the world, end quote. Then, just before this email was sent out, an open letter to the Academy had been sent and signed by more than 40 high-profile cinematographers and directors that included Spike Lee, Quentin Tarantino, Emmanuel Lubezki, and Roger Deakins, saying this, quote, regulating these essential cinematic crafts to lesser status in this 91st Academy Awards ceremony is nothing less than an insult to those of us who have devoted our lives and passion to our chosen profession. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. One, I'm just gonna say this full and outright. The Oscars has pretty much, for as long as I remember and as long as I've been watching the Oscars, the Oscars have always been long. It's a long show. It is. I will admit to that. The Oscars is a long show, but it kind of has to be. It's an award show. All the award shows are pretty long shows to begin with. You have 24 categories, and a lot of time you're sitting especially with all the technical awards and even like the documentaries and the short movies, you're having them sit like all the way in the back. It's gonna take them a while to get all the way in the front, especially when they're on the older side, because a lot of them are on the older side. And a lot of times, and especially this year, of all the years they want to do it, this year is one of the biggest years that I can remember where there are a lot of first-time nominees. A lot of the nominees that are, especially in the acting categories, there are a lot of first-time nominees this year. You don't think they're gonna get emotional and they're just gonna go up there and be like, "Oh, thanks, bye"? No, that's not gonna happen. Okay, so one, the show has always been long. That's just the way it is. It's an award show. You're putting on this show for all these people who have worked tremendously hard for this and to get to this point, they're going to want to go up there and they're going to want to thank and they're going to want to, say what they want to say, because this is really the only time they have a spotlight for a big national audience like this. Because there are award shows for like the technical awards, but they're not on TV. They're not even streamed online for the most part, if at all, and probably not at all. So the only way that the winners are announced really is through the reporters that happen to be at the show, or they're just announced online. So there's that. 2, you don't have to watch the show. There is a long list. Like I mentioned, it's a long show. You don't have to watch. There's always people like, oh, I have to sit through the whole award. No, you don't. You don't have to sit, because it's everywhere. The winners of the Oscars are everywhere. I have been awake the next day watching the morning news, and you want to know one of their first stories? Unless someone's been, especially here in Chicago, unless someone's been shot, the Oscar winners are almost always the first news item that's shown there. And the winners are everywhere. It's all over the Twitter timeline. That the Oscar hashtag is still up there in the morning the next day. So just no. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. It's that simple. As for the whole, there was something, I don't know where, I don't think it was here, but I think it was somewhere else. There was an opinion piece somewhere. I can't remember if it was Variety or the Hollywood Reporter that mentioned ratings. And the ratings for the Oscars have gone down in the years. That is true. But for an award show like this, ratings don't matter. You're not doing this to win the night for Oscar wise. You're doing this to show the accomplishments of these people, of these actors. You're not going around and being like, I don't know if we're gonna have a season 2, guys. Like, no, you do the show once a year. Why should ratings matter to you? So yeah, that was the other thing. The main thing here, obviously, people are upset that these are the categories. Especially, many people were upset that film editing and especially cinematography were one of the awards. Now, if you're sitting there and you're wondering, well, why is that? Because film editing, first of all, if you don't have cinematography for your movie, you don't have a movie. And if you don't have a movie, you have nothing to edit. So it's not important. Because especially for film editing. So say you do have cinematography. Say you actually do have a movie. You want to know how important film editing is? It's very important. Because you can have a awesome, well put together, great characters, great story, great pace, everything. You'd have amazing visuals, everything. And if it's edited poorly, that movie will be a piece of crap. And you can have a terrible movie, terrible story, terrible characters, but you know what? If it's edited okay, and if it's edited great, you can sit through and be like, you know what? Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. It's mind-boggling how dumb the Oscars have. And this is, of course, on top of the fact that the Oscars wanted to add a popular film category this year, which thankfully they did not do, but they have said that they want to do in the future, which I really think is dumb and they shouldn't do. And a lot of people agree that they shouldn't do it. And a popular film category has no reason to be at the Oscars. Anyway, I want to get mad at it, by the way, if you haven't already figured that out. So yeah, there's so many different ways they could have gone about this. One, if you were going to do this, if you want to cut time off the show, like I mentioned, they use, especially with the technical awards, they always have the people like all the way in the back, where it takes them at least 90 seconds to get to the stage, or at least the front of the stage, to the stairs of the stage. If you really have an issue with that, move everything around. Move the categories. Move the categories to the start of the show, and announce those first, and have everyone that's nominated. It's going to be a hassle probably, because there's probably not a ton of room back there, but have everyone from that category that's nominated in the back, and then have the winner just come out from the back, and not have them just come out through the front, or walk down the aisle to the front. Have them in the back. Have them in the back and have the winners come out. Have a camera back there, or put them in different rooms or put them in different sections. They're not just all bunched together, and just have them come to the stage from the back. If you really want to cut off time, that's great. And then it's these awards, and again, everyone got really upset that it was film editing and cinematography, because obviously a lot of people love, especially the cinematography category. I think that's the one that really drove it home. Everyone was like, "How dare you!" But I don't know. I honestly don't know what else I can say that hasn't already been said by people online. And Alfonso Cuarón had an amazing tweet, and I forgot to write it down here in front of me. But if you can go on Twitter and just search up Alfonso Cuarón, that tweet that he wrote was amazing, and it was along the lines of, you can have a movie without actors or without sound or some he listed all things, but you can't have a movie without cinema, and he put cinema all in caps, and then photography at the end, and that's really awesome. And of course, Alfonso Cuarón is nominated for the Oscars. His film Roma is nominated this year, and he was actually one of the cinematographers for Roma as well. So it's it's dumb. I hate this. And then them saying that, oh, we're gonna switch off different categories in the future. Okay, so you're gonna and let's face it, they're not gonna switch off any of the big categories. Best Picture is not gonna be presented during a montage. Best Actor is not going to be presented during a montage. Best Actress, Best Supporting, any of the acting roles is not going to be a part of this little list of rotating categories. It's not. It's always going to be the smaller ones. It's the truth. It's always going to be the smaller ones. It's not going to be any. Can you imagine? That will be the day where everyone's like, just going up to the Oscars. And I've been trying really hard not to swear on this podcast, but that's going to be the day where everyone's going to, if God help them, if they're like, oh, we're going to have one of the acting categories be one of the categories that we edit down in the show. That is the day where everyone's going to be like, fuck you, and fuck everyone that you know. I don't see how this has a good outcome. I don't. And it's oh man, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be really rough when they finally actually do stuff when that happens. I really hope that doesn't. So this isn't. It's something they want to do. It's not potentially permanent, because if they did want to reverse their decision, they have, at the time of this podcast, they have pretty much until next week, actually. No, yeah, up until next week. It's like Thursday or Friday of next week when they have time to reverse the decision, because the nominations have to be in, I think, by Thursday or Friday, or the winners, their voting has to be in by Thursday or Friday. So, yeah, so they have time if they want to do it, but it seems like the Academy is not interested in changing anything like this. So, oh man, we'll see how this works out. It's really there's nothing more I can say that hasn't already been said. It's dumb. I don't like this, that they're gonna do it. Like I mentioned, the show has always been long, and I think even if it wasn't, like, even if they were gonna do this and they were not gonna show anything, or they were gonna cut down the winners and the speeches and everything like that. If they had done it for all the smaller awards, like the live action short, the documentary short feature, and like hair and makeup, if they had done like all like the smaller stuff, like all of the smaller stuff that no one really has access to, so like the short films, no one really has access to short films unless you're an Academy member. I think maybe some theaters actually do show all the short films that are nominated, like one night a year or something like that. But if they had done any of the smaller stuff, so if they had kept live action short or animated short and like documentary short or hair and makeup or whatever, they'd done the smaller stuff, then maybe people would be upset. I mean, people would still be upset, but I don't think the public outcry will be that much, because people usually don't have access to that. I'm not saying it's okay. In no way, shape, or form am I saying it is okay that they are cutting people out of the Oscars. None whatsoever. Even if they're changing their format. The format of the Oscars has always been that way because it's to show that people know what they come for. So I don't know, man. It's and you know what the worst part of this is that they have a montage every year of the night before, which is where they hold other awards. Why not just show them there? Why not just be like, oh, we're going to lower the nomination category by 20, so we're going to have 20 the day of the Oscars, because we're going to show the other ones the night before, where we have our honorary Oscar show. Just do them there. You're already showing a montage. Oh, God forbid your montage be 2 minutes longer. Anyway, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of this? Do you even care? Maybe. I don't know. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe you're just one of those people that doesn't like the Oscars. And by the way, Oscars, not the be-all, end-all of award shows. You know, if the movie that you thought was going to win Best Picture, or the person you thought was going to win Best Actor, Best Actress, or whatever, doesn't win, doesn't mean that, you know, your pick is garbage, or your pick is wrong, or your pick is not good. No. Everyone knows... Everyone who... And this is the other thing. Like, everyone who knows and watches the Academy Awards knows. Like, is there a certain niche for it? Of course there's a certain niche for watching the Oscars. But that doesn't mean just because your movie didn't win, or that movie won, it is the be-all, end-all best movie of the year, and you have to bow down to that movie and, you know, put aside all the other movies. No, that's not the case. Okay, now I'm done. Because I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, so I don't want to do that anymore.
Hey guys, guess what? The Academy apparently switched their decision. So now the Academy will do what they were supposed to do the entire time, which was show all 24 Academy Awards at the show. Okay, I'm recording this really late at night, which is why my voice is so quiet and sounds very tired. So, because it came out right as I was about to publish. So, yeah. Yay!
Alright, so that's all the movie news items that came out this week. Obviously, I will keep you guys updated on this. I will have a Oscar-nominated or Oscar pick show podcast next week, because the Oscars are 2 Sundays from now. So, or not this Sunday, but the next Sunday. Yeah, 2 Sundays from now. So, alright, that's all the movie news items. If anything big drops, I will try to update the Facebook page. If not, we'll talk about it on the podcast next week at the top of the show. Let's move on to this week's movie releases.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So we got 4 wide releases. A couple of these have already come out. They came out earlier this week. They came out on Wednesday and Thursday. But we're just going to talk about all of them, all in one big group here. The first movie we're going to talk about is Isn't It Romantic? Natalie, played by Rebel Wilson, disenchanted with love, mysteriously finds herself trapped inside a romantic comedy. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm not the biggest Rebel Wilson fan, but again, if she's given the right material, I think she can knock it out of the park. And I like the idea of this. And this is something that's not, you know, overly original. We've seen ideas similar to this. We talked about it earlier with Yesterday. But I don't know, the trailer just didn't really grab me the way I thought it would. And I mean, it's got a pretty decent supporting cast. You got Adam Devine, you got Liam Hemsworth, Priyanka Chopra is in there. Jennifer Saunders plays Rebel Wilson's mom when she's younger. Her character is younger. So, I don't know. Well, if it's good, then, you know, whatever. But it's not, for me, I'm not probably going to go watch it. The next movie is Fighting With My Family, which is written and directed by Stephen Merchant and inspired by the real life of WWE superstar Paige. She's a former wrestler. She now has injury, unfortunately, kind of stopped her in-ring performance. And I'm still a wrestling fan, so this kind of has some hold on me, and does have some grab on me, because I know Paige's story, and I know, you know, the part that, you know, is publicized and everything. So, and a lot of us know her story. And I think her story is great. And I think when they said they were going to make a movie about her, and she does come from a wrestling family. Her mother and her father and her brother are all wrestlers. I think her mother still wrestles to this day. And Paige, I don't know if they're going to touch on this in the movie. But it's this crazy story that Paige swears is true and her mother swears is true. Paige's mother, by the way, of course, her real name is not Paige. Her real name is, oh my god, Serena, something like that, something along those lines. So the story is that I just gotta call her Paige because I can't remember her real name. Paige's mother was wrestling while she was pregnant, or in the early days of her pregnancy, before the whole baby bump and everything. So Paige always says that she was literally born into this business, and she was wrestling in the ring. She was the youngest wrestler ever to wrestle in the ring. So that kind of finds. So I don't know if the movie's gonna touch on that, but it'll be funny if it does. I think that would be a nice touch. Being a wrestling fan already, seeing some of the tidbits of the trailer, especially like the final where they're actually wrestling in the ring. That's not the outfit she was wearing in her Raw debut, but whatever. Just getting a little wrestling nerdy on you guys, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I really am. I think it's kind of cool. So Fighting With My Family it stars Florence Pugh. She plays, I think that's how I pronounce her last name. I'm very sorry if it isn't. She's playing Paige in the movie. Lena Headey, of course, from Game of Thrones. She's Cersei. She's playing Paige's mother in the movie. Nick Frost is in there. He's playing the father. Vince Vaughn is in there. I don't think he's playing a real person. They make it a really big point in every trailer, just the one trailer, but every TV spot where he says his name, I'm Hutch Morgan. I don't actually think there's a Hutch Morgan in the WWE. I think he's just a culmination of a bunch of different characters. So there's that. And of course, Dwayne Johnson, who's a producer on the movie, does appear in the movie as well as himself. So it should be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. I don't know if there's a history between Paige. I'm pretty sure there is. But there's a history between Paige and The Rock, as closely as it looks like the movie's gonna. I'm sure that obviously there's dramatizations in it, but it should be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. And it's getting some pretty decent reviews, so that's really cool. All right, the next movie we're gonna talk about is Happy Death Day to You. Tree, played by Jessica Roth, discovers that dying over and over again was surprisingly easier than the dangers that lie ahead. Happy Death Day to You brings back pretty much the majority of the main cast with a few new cast members. I was very surprised by the first Happy Death Day. I was not looking forward to it. I thought it looked a little dumb, but I went to go watch it on a Friday night with my brother in a pretty packed theater almost, and everyone was really into it. I got into it. I was surprisingly won over by the first Happy Death Day, so I'm actually kind of looking forward to Happy Death Day 2, or Happy Death Day to You. So I think I'm looking forward to it. I didn't think I was going to, but I actually am. So yeah. And finally, the last movie that's coming out this week for all you guys to go watch is Alita Battle Angel, co-written by James Cameron and directed by Robert Rodriguez, and based on the anime of the same name. The movie is set in the future where Alita, played by Rosa Salazar, tries to discover the truth of what she really is and fight to change the world. Alita Battle Angel co-stars Christoph Waltz, Mahershala Ali, Jackie Earle Haley, and Jennifer Connelly, of course, amongst many others. I was originally going to be the plan if I had time to do a podcast this week, which, of course, I ended up having time. The plan was to have a spoiler-free review of Alita Battle Angel, because I had an opportunity to go watch it at the AMC special screenings they were doing earlier this week. But apparently AMC didn't want to play the movie because me and my family sat in the movie theater amongst, with, of course, other people for over an hour before we decided, you know what, we're walking out of here because this is ridiculous. So didn't get a chance to watch the movie. But needless to say, it was probably my worst movie theater experience that I've ever had at a movie theater that I go to very, very often. So yeah, I did not like that whatsoever. Anyway, I think like a lot of people, when I saw the teaser for Alita Battle Angel, I thought it looked interesting, but I wasn't totally bought in the whole time. And then I saw, the other trailers that came out, and I ended up really kind of liking what I was seeing. And then the word of mouth came out that, the movie was going to be, the movie was going to be good, or the movie was good and was very good, and the visuals were great, and you should see this on the biggest theater you can. It's actually very good 3D. I got really excited, so I'm still gonna go watch Alita. I'm giving the theater another shot and gonna go watch it this weekend. But I'm looking forward to it. It may not be all that great, maybe, who knows? Yeah, I mean, you can say that really about any movie, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what Alita Battle Angel brings to the table. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. All right, so yeah, those are your movies this weekend. Alita Battle Angel, Happy Death Day to You, Fighting with My Family, and Isn't It Romantic? FYI, on Fighting with My Family, I forgot to mention this when I was talking about it. Fighting with My Family is getting kind of a semi-wide release. It's probably getting a glorified limited release this week, but it will be getting a wider release next week. It's not coming out in all theaters, so I don't know, that's just kind of the way they did it. I mean, originally it was supposed to, and then for some reason they ended up doing it the way they're doing it now, which is a glorified limited release and then now a wider release next week. So just want to bring that up to you guys. All right. That's it, guys. And then next week, hopefully, I will have Oscar predictions podcast next week as well. I don't know if I'll be adding that to the weekly roundup news podcast or have its own separate podcast. I think it'll just have to depend on how the news week is going that week. Maybe that will just be one solo podcast. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the podcast this week. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sticking by me, even though I was probably rambling for a good part there with the Oscar news, or with the Oscar, the Oscar news. So yeah, I'm done. Links to everything will be down below in the description / show notes area. You guys can watch all the trailers that came out this week. You guys can get links to the Facebook page, where I try to update. I have been updating it this week. Work's just been really killing me this week, so I apologize for that. What else is down there? The WordPress account where I do written reviews. You'll get a written review of Alita and probably Happy Death Day to You up there. What else? I started a new series up on there. By the time this goes up, there will be 2 installments. My favorite fight scenes of all time is there, so that should be if you want to go check that out and hear it. I really appreciate it. It's really cool. If I do say so myself. So yeah, my also my Twitter, my Instagram things, my handles are down below as well. All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I really appreciate you guys. Try to stay warm if you're in one of those cold areas, or try to stay cool if you're in one of those warm areas. And be smart, be safe, make good decisions, be good people, and as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!